Thank you. Kind of looking out in the audience before we started, it reminded me of flying to Las Vegas. Everyone was kind of happy and at the end of August. Be that way. Who am I? Some of you know who I am, but let me give you a little bit of who I am and why I'm here. I'm from Wisconsin. I kind of grew up getting the environmental signals that to make a lot of money was the best way to have a girlfriend and a car and an apartment, and so I went and studied business. I worked on Wall Street for a while. My job was to manage money for billionaires. My first job after MBA school was to cold call people that had $100 million or more. And you would cold call 50 of them, and you'd get 5 meetings, and you'd get 1 client. And so at a very young age, I saw the richest people in the world go through the daily motions of their lives. And I was fortunate to learn that someone that had $300 million said, when I get to 400, I'm quitting. But when they got to 400, their buddies at 800 or 900. And it was the feelings they got every day when they woke up that were driving them, not the money. The money itself was just a marker. And they were stressed, and I remember they would call me from the delivery room when their grandson was being born. What's the IBM stock doing? And it was, it just struck me as, wait a minute, I thought money was so that you could enjoy those things. So I was fortunate to be exposed to that situation when I was young, and I eventually kind of started reading books, Daniel Quinn, Ishmael, Bill McKibben's End of Nature, and in the late 90s I started to have kind of an epiphany, and in 2002 I gave my clients their money back, and I quit, and I traveled around the world for 2 years with a backpack of books, Herman Daly, and the whole ecological economics. And so basically for the last 10 years, full time, I've been reading and learning about the interconnected issues that face humanity. So why am I here tonight? Well, there's a proximate reason and an ultimate reason. Proximate and ultimate, the proximate reason that geese fly south in winter is because it's warmer. The ultimate reason is because they get the neurotransmitter cues that lead to higher foraging opportunities. So the proximate reason I'm here is to make an impact on Minnesota and the future of our species and our culture. And the ultimate reason I'm here is to raise my social status and increase my mating opportunities. I didn't expect you to laugh, but I said because in that statement is a little bit of truth. And in that statement also is a juxtaposition of one of the core problems we face, which is individual behavior looking out for themselves and altruistic behavior of our aggregate collective. And they're totally battling, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit tonight, and it's always present, that battle. So what I'm going to try and do is first talk about first principles. How does the human ecosystem really run? Which is maybe a little bit different than we're taught in the textbooks. And then I'm going to talk about a synthesis of how that fits with the present and future of our society. And then per Kurt's suggestion, I've added quite a bit, right or wrong. They're my own thoughts on what we as individuals can be doing. I'm going to talk about what I'm doing, what can you be doing, what can Minnesota be doing. So I've got a lot of slides, and I'm going to go relatively fast, and there will be room at the end for questions. So first I'm going to talk about energy. Energy is the primary driver of organisms, ecosystems, life in nature, including our system. A cheetah expends a certain amount of energy to get an antelope. If he expended more energy than was in the antelope, he would quickly die or not have offspring, etc. So it's the surplus energy available to the cheetah and other species is what allows for proliferation. So there's no different in the human system. There's nothing in our economies that generates GDP, or economic growth, that doesn't first have an energy conversion. No matter how you make a cup, from a coconut or from ceramic or plastic or steel, you first need energy. Energy is the master resource. If you think back to several hundred years ago, we would use the energy from the sun combined with the soil and other natural elements, rain, to produce a surplus. And we use that surplus to feed people that were employed elsewhere, etc. Energy has always been central in human societies. In fact, when we talk about GDP, or what most people on Wall Street or Bloomberg or CNBC talk about economic growth, it's really just a proxy for energy use. This graph shows over the last 30-some years, the light blue line is primary energy, the red line is GDP, and useful energy, which is things that directly do work, like electricity, is almost exactly correlated with GDP. So standard economics says that's wrong, that all that really matters is capital and labor, or population. But energy is special. Everything on this page costs around $100. But the oil, the energy embodied in that barrel of oil, is 5.7 million BTUs, or about 1,700 kilowatt hours of potential work. The average American, or me, digging potatoes or pushing wheelbarrows, generates around 0.6 of a kilowatt hour per 9-hour workday. So if you extrapolate that out, 1 barrel of oil supplants around 11 years of human labor. The average American salary is $44,000 a year, so it's almost $500,000 of human labor substituted from this 200 million year old condensed ancient microorganisms, et cetera, that we were pulling from the ground. So that is the driver of industrial civilization, is fossil carbon. The average American uses around 60 barrel of oil equivalents of coal, oil, and natural gas. So if you think about that subsidy, we literally have hundreds of fossil slaves standing behind us. They don't speak, they don't complain, but we recently discovered they poop and they breathe, which is a problem. By the way, before I get too far, how many have heard, how many came to my Earth Day talk a couple months ago? Okay, so some people. It's kind of like a Grateful Dead concert. There's some old songs. Okay, so here is kind of an example of the energy density, how we've allowed to use incredibly energy-dense fuels. I'm about 1/10 of a horse. That is my horse, my draft horse. That's our utility vehicle, which is 45 horse, and that's our truck, which is 150 horse. So our current civilization is incredibly energy-dense fuels, move things around the world. And this amount of diesel fuel will power that truck 7 miles down a road. So imagine how many humans it would take to push that truck, even if what if it was uphill? I mean, there are some things that it doesn't matter how many hundreds of humans it would take, you can't do it. So it's pretty much indistinguishable from magic at any human time scale. Okay, so here's a Midwest example. What we've done is we've added huge amounts inefficient energy to processes that humans used to do before. And the reason that we can do huge amounts and do them inefficiently is because energy's been unbelievably cheap. So take, for example, milking cows. So if you manually milk a cow, it takes basically 30 minutes per human per cow per day, 0 external energy, and the salary is $3 an hour. There's semi-automated milking machines which reduce the human time in half to 15 minutes a day. They use 300 kilowatt hours per cow, and then raise